Hello, everybody. If you please, places, please take your seats. I feel terrible cutting off any conversations that are going on. I was just talking to someone outside. One of the greatest things about this whole endeavor is the side conversations and all the opportunities in the rooms and outside the rooms, honestly. And next time, I think we're going to try to make the rooms even bigger. Although I will say some of the smaller rooms drove conversations outside the door that perhaps would not have been had otherwise. Thank you all for coming to this final session, and it promises to be an absolutely fantastic one. We have a wonderful keynote in just a moment. And again, just coming to the entire, what I'm going to call this historic 2022 National Research Conference on Firearm Injury Prevention in this ceremony. You know, this has been a phenomenal 2 days for us. And by the way, I am Charlie Brannis. I'm one of the conference co-chairs, and I'm also with the Columbia University Scientific Union for the Reduction of Gun Violence. I want to begin, before I get to a couple of thank yous, and we're going to keep this short to leave as much time for the keynote as possible. I just want to begin by saying something, how much of a joy it's been, but a brief but important note. You know, it is fabulous to see all of you here, and I've overheard from so many of you that you're so pleased to be here, as am I. I don't want us to forget, however, why we're here. And I'm going to state that this as a moment of clarity for us all. It is to celebrate this success of having this, yes, but only insofar as it serves to prevent the tragedies that so many of our communities, our patients, and by the way, our friends and neighbors are negatively affected by every day. So I don't want us to forget that as we convene here, closing this, and as we continue on in the years to come. So please carry that away with you these, these past few days into the future years of this gathering as we continue our good work together. There have been so many amazing presentations at this week's conference. I just want to say on behalf of the conference executive committee, I want to thank all the presenters who showcased their science over the past 2 days. And I'm going to just start by clapping just for them a little bit, because they made this happen, right? So if the presenters hadn't come out, if all of you had not come out to do this and talk about your science and your projects, this would not have been pulled off. So that's absolutely important. But then also to the session moderators who spent so much time taking charge of those, some of those sessions and making sure we stayed on time and so forth. And then very much so to the staff and the students who were a part of this and really did make this run, moving mics around or whatever it may have been. So thanks also to them. Now, we had over 600 registrants for this conference, and I must tell you, when we first conceived of this, we thought it was going to be 100 people. Unbelievable. Over 250 presentations representing 4 countries, by the way, not simply the United States, and 34 states in the U.S. This week's conference featured work from more than 20 scientific disciplines, ranging from anthropology, business, economics, criminal justice, law, sociology, social work, political science, engineering, medicine, and public health. Incredible. I really want to thank all of the organizers, committee members, and so forth for allowing the conference to happen. And then also say the meeting was co-organized and supported by the University of Michigan Institute for Firearm Injury Prevention, the RAND Corporation, the Columbia Scientific Union for the Reduction of Gun Violence, SURGE, and the National Collaborative on Gun Violence Research. We were so pleased that we were able to get together on this. We're also very appreciative of our federal sponsors and all the federally funded initiatives. To any of you who came to the talk this morning from our federal partners, tremendous. Absolutely. That, to me, was actually one of the most absolutely historic things, is to see CDC, NIH, and NIJ on the same platform talking about their funding of this together. So we're so appreciative. The National Institute of Child Health and Human Development at the NIH, FACTS Initiative, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, as well as the National Institute of Justice. And additionally, and very importantly, those supporters that have carried the water over the decades, by the way, are philanthropic sponsors. Big shout out to the Joyce Foundation. I know many of you in this room, including myself, the Joyce Foundation was a supporter of our work at a time when nobody else would. So big shout out to them, as well as Arnold Ventures that has made a sizable investment in this entire affair, and the California Wellness Foundation, the Missouri Foundation for Health, the Harry Frank Guggenheim Foundation, the Tao Foundation, Kaiser Permanente, Fund for a Safer Future, and the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Unbelievable that I would take that long to even read that list. So thank you to all of them. What a tremendous investment they've made. Finally, I want to just take a moment. I'm not going to thank it. I'm just going to shout out to the committee members that are listed in your programs. Please look at their names, get to know them. These are the folks that are going to be very active in sustaining this. And we're going to hear from Sonali Rajan in just one second. So these faculty worked tirelessly to make this a success, and nothing would be possible without everything they did, reviewing the abstracts, developing the awards process. You're going to hear from Dr. Richardson in just a moment, organizing the scientific program that you'll have access to, that you've had access to over these past 2 days. So really tremendous work on their behalf. So now I want to take a moment to introduce Dr. Sonali Rajan, who I'm thrilled to have come up here to say a few words. Dr. Rajan is the co-chair of the Sustainability Committee. She's going to talk about next year's conference and society that's soon going to launch. And by the way, she has been voted president of the society by the Sustainability Committee and will be moving this forward for the foreseeable future. So thank you, Dr. Rajan. Would you come up and say a few things?
Thanks, Charlie. There's a lot of people here. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Sonali Rajan, and I am so pleased to serve as president for our new professional society, along with Dr. Jesse Pizarro, who is professor in the School of Criminology and Criminal Justice at Arizona State University, who will be joining as secretary, and my lovely colleague and friend, Dr. Mark Zimmerman, who is the co-director of the University of Michigan Institute for Firearm Injury Prevention, who will be joining as our inaugural treasurer. I wanted to take this opportunity during the closing ceremonies to give a little bit, just some more details about the society, which will be called the Research Society for the Prevention of Firearm-Related Harms. And the purpose of the society really is going to be to promote and support rigorous research and the evaluation of evidence-based practices to prevent firearm-related harms across the life course. And so broadly speaking, this will entail promoting multidisciplinary scientific research, like you have seen here over the past couple of days, advancing firearm-related harm prevention research and validating and establishing this field as a viable career path, and in that vein, nurturing and supporting the next generation of researchers in this field. Our hope is to continue to build interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary collaborations across the U.S. and importantly, internationally as well, and to really commit to increasing opportunities and support for researchers from communities and populations affected by firearm-related harms, as well as creating very specific opportunities for researchers from underrepresented populations. Importantly, we will also be organizing an annual conference, an annual scientific conference that highlights this research and evidence-based practices, and I'll say more about that in a moment. Now, members of the society will include any person who is or has been actively engaged in studying firearm injury prevention or firearm-related harms, and this very much will include students and postdocs and trainees. On a logistical note, all of the conference attendees will receive an email after the conference with details about how to join the society, its membership, and all that good stuff. And this is just really an exciting new step to support and strengthen and grow this field of what I would say is just an extraordinary group of individuals. I do want to take a moment to, sorry, I'm I'm reading through my notes too fast. The Sustainability Committee, which you heard Charlie talk about and mention, and their names, again, are in the back of the program, and the co-chairs of all the various conference subcommittees will be serving as the initial board of directors, and I'm so incredibly grateful to you all for that. And we will be holding elections following next year's conference to elect new and additional members. So that's how that process will work moving forward. I do want to take a moment to thank the Sustainability Committee in particular, we met quite a bit over the past year. It was just such a wonderful group of individuals. I feel like I learned a lot just in the process of getting to be in conversation with them. And so none of this would have happened without them. A special thank you to Mark Zimmerman for co-chairing that committee with me, and a special thank you to Lisa Acola and to Jessica Roche, without which none of this would have happened in any way. So I just wanted to say thank you to you both. Next year's conference will be held in Chicago in October, so we will send out a save the date with all those details as soon as we have that information for you. And we look forward to seeing you there, so thank you. Back to you, Charlie.
So, thanks, Sonali, Dr. Rajan. We're all really looking forward to next year's conference, and of course, joining the society. I'm going to encourage everyone to sign up for this. Such a great turnout, and we want to keep that energy going in the years to come. Thanks to the Sustainability Committee for all the work over the past year and continuing. And any good organization has to have a committee like this so that this doesn't become a short-lived success. So now I want to introduce Dr. Joe Richardson, who's co-chair of the Awards Committee, to introduce our keynote speaker. Dr. Richardson.
Thank you, Charlie. I'm Dr. Joe Richardson, co-chair of the Awards Committee, but before I introduce our keynote speaker, I want to acknowledge the co-chair of the Awards Committee because he may have to leave. He has a flight to catch. You know, he's Superman, so he has a flight to catch. Put on his cape. Dr. Ali Rohani Rabar, for all of the work that he has done. I can't begin to explain how an amazing colleague he is. And if you know anything about Ali, he's calm in any situation. So even if we're friends, he's like, it's going to be okay. It's all right, Joe. It's okay. So I just want to thank you and uplift you. So when we, and I will acknowledge my other comrades when we get to the award ceremony. But when I want to just tell a brief story, when we decided to pull this together and we were thinking about who we wanted to open and close, I think it was pretty much unanimous decisions on who we decided. And the person that we decided to close, I think, is the perfect bookend for this conference. It is my great honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Chico Tillmon. Dr. Tillmon is Executive Director of READI at Heartland Alliance, where he leads a team who provides capacity building, technical assistance, and direct service in community violence intervention. He is a senior fellow at the University of Chicago Urban Labs and a violence prevention expert. Dr. Tillmon has consulted for the City of Houston, the City of Austin, Texas, City United, Live Free, Life Camp in Queens, New York, and several other organizations throughout the country. He is also the former executive director of the YMCA of Metro Chicago's Youth Safety and Violence Prevention Programs, which is one of the leading national training and technical assistance providers for violence prevention, reentry, and nonprofits. After serving 16 years in prison under draconian mandatory minimums, Dr. Tillmon came home with the purpose of trying to change his community in a positive way. He works with youth, young adults, and direct service providers in marginalized areas to help them hone their skills professionally and improve their performance. He has worked tirelessly over a decade in violence prevention, mental health, and reentry. Dr. Tillmon believes that professional development can lead to economic growth and improve the quality of life for men and women in our most vulnerable communities who have been heavily impacted by systemic oppression and disinvestment. Dr. Tillmon has worked with hundreds of young adults on the west and south side of Chicago, many of whom are returning citizens. His work has impacted thousands of lives and played a critical part in teaching and mentoring African American young adults. And for that work, he has been recognized in violence prevention nationally by President Biden and invited to the Rose Garden at the White House in 2021. But that's not it. He was the recipient of the 2018 Congressional Veterans Brain Trust Award, and in 2017, the Ford Men of Courage Award for his work in Chicago's most vulnerable communities. He was also awarded Practitioner of the Year in 2016 by the University of Illinois at Chicago Criminology, Law, and Justice Department. Dr. Tillmon is trained in trauma-informed care practices, a member of the National Honor Society, and graduated summa cum laude from Northeastern Illinois University. Dr. Tillmon holds a PhD in criminology, law, and justice from the University of Illinois at Chicago, and a master's degree in inner city studies education from Northeastern Illinois University. He is a veteran who served in the Illinois Air National Guard, and his presentation this afternoon is titled "The Role of Research in CVI, a Thread Throughout the Entire Process." Please welcome my friend, my comrade, Dr. Chico Tillmon.
Let me begin by saying I'm so humbled by this opportunity to speak to such an august body of geniuses who dedicate their lives to making our world better. I was blown away by the presentations that I saw. I'm filled, I'm inspired, my mind is churning, I'm eager to learn more about the many things you said, that you shared, that you taught. But more importantly, I'm motivated. I'm motivated that our world will be better because of you. And I thank you, I thank you, I thank you. I'm gonna get to the slides in a minute. Let me click one. So, cause you doing it for me? That's good. You can click the slide because I'm gonna tell you one of the challenges I have, and it's been reported or recorded around the country is I could get on one slide and stay on that slide for too long, but I know this is the end of something beautiful, and I'm not going to hold you too long. I did grow up in a Baptist church, so you know what No, but I'm not going to keep y'all too long. But in all seriousness, how you say just hit the click? Okay. In all seriousness, let me frame things so you can understand the lens I'm coming from. and then we'll get into the slides, and I'll get you up out of here. First of all, let me start by saying I come into this space with a triadic perspective. The first perspective is one that's been heavily impacted by firearm injury or gun violence. I grew up on the west side of Chicago in the Austin community. In the Austin community, we have about 150 to 200 homicides a year, about 300 to 500 shootings a year. So I grew up with an intimate relationship with gun violence. I've been connected to subculture groups, which we call gangs. And throughout the 90s, I tell people that I went to maybe 300 to 400 funerals of people that I knew. So I'm real connected to not only the impact, not only the vicarious trauma, but the many things that go along with gun violence. Secondly, I come as a practitioner, somebody who's been a direct service provider, somebody who's managed a site in Chicago, somebody who's managed 26 sites in Chicago, but also somebody who's did technical assistance and built systems out throughout the United States from ideation to implementation. But lastly, and this may be the reason I was invited here, I come as a researcher, somebody who's eager to learn, eager to study, in quest to unpack, searching to find the answers to the questions that many people have around this epidemic that we call violence. And I wanted to set the table or foundation by allowing you to understand who I am so that you can clearly digest what I'm about to say. Is that all right? First of all, I want to start by saying the role of researchers in CVI is extremely important and is the most critical piece to the survival of people in our community. I want you to allow that to resonate, and then I'm going to walk you through why it's so important. First of all, to set it straight, people who ascend to higher education are 8% of the country. People who ascend to be researchers at the PhD level are 1.2% of the country. So really the people who create the models which the practitioners use, who come up with the theoretical frameworks which the practitioner utilizes, who do all the research necessary for them to identify where to target or where the target areas are in this room or represent others that should be or could be in this room. So as that resonates, we must lock arms with shared responsibility, knowing the answer to the gun violence problem is right here. A lot of people often in research, and I talked to Charles about it earlier. You don't mind if I call you that, do you? The thing I love about researchers is the humility and the modesty that they portray or carry. And I told him, most of the times you hear somebody in research talk about the work, what they always say, we don't really do nothing. It's the people that's out on the front line that do all the work. You know, it sounds great. But in reality, without the model, there would be no work for the people on the front line to do. Without no research, there would be no opportunity to see if what they're doing works. And without no research, there would be no way to evaluate the impact. When we think about what this country went through, and I'm gonna go to the next slide, I promise. With COVID, the entire country was in what? An uproar, a flux. If you think about what we went through COVID, people were desperate, people were paranoid, some were excited. The whole world was in turmoil until what? The people that do research began to find answers to how to offset the things or the challenges that were being presented. And you might say, Chico, well, that type of science is different. But I beg to differ. As long as we know that what challenges is present, we know, based upon literature and research, what science mitigates this particular problem. So what we have to do, and what I'm urging you to do, I had a bunch of slides and I'm gonna go through them, but my challenge to you is unlock the genius that was in you that made you pursue that hard-ass degree. I'm serious, because you know what? It takes, somebody asked me, they say, you know, it killed me when people say, what does it mean to have a PhD? It means you dedicated. I'm telling you, because I tell them the hardest thing about getting a PhD for me was life. Dealing, you know, this consistency, dealing with life, but continually to see this thing through. And that's what you've shown, the fortitude and the consistency and the persistence to see it through regardless of what's going on in your life. We got to do the same thing about violence. We got to see it through. We have to see it through, because when you unlock the genius in you, you will begin to build this ecosystem necessary, what? To offset the problems. And we will understand that it has to be interdisciplinary, that everybody has to play a role in it. And we could even bring in the economists to say how the businesses can play a role, how the healthcare system can play a role, how every part of each individual component within a community plays a role in combating violence, because now it's a shared responsibility, as opposed to placing those responsibility on one discipline or one organization or one program to stop it. That's what we have to do. I'm gonna go to the next slide just for the sake of it. Let me go to some of these slides. I'm gonna tell you something different that I brought to violence prevention by me ascending or having this quest to explore research. I think I was a researcher before I ever became a researcher, because I always asked myself why or how come, or had this curiosity to understand deeply how things work. When I was working at Cure Violence, and this will help you, this will get into some of the things that I got up there that you probably already know, so I'm not going to reiterate it. I saw this beautiful idea by Dr. Slucker. And I'm telling you it's beautiful, because he said he had the public health approach to violence, and I want you to hear me out. He said, okay, the first part, he had the first part about engaging or trying to, you know, intercept or break down or mediate the individuals. And then the second part was about changing behaviors. And the third part was about changing norms. And from an ideal, it was perfect. But we were never able to put it into practice. And that's what made me desire, as a practitioner, to become a researcher, because I said it's gaps in this theoretical perspective because it's never happening. If you think about the violence prevention or the CBI programs, we were able to detect and interrupt, meaning throughout the United States, and get decline, but we had to stay in those specific communities in order to keep the violence from spiking. We never reached the stage to have a behavior modification component to change the behavior, and we never changed communities where just because we came to a community, all of a sudden the norms changed and the community began doing different behaviors and no longer were violent. So I said, how do I create a model or influence a model? And one of my mentors said, you have to become a researcher or you have to become a social scientist. And I said, well, that's what I'll do. Because I was so intimate with the problem and had all these ideas and questions around it, but the only way I could influence it was if I became a researcher. Chico, what do that have to do with us, right? You have that power too. You have the power to, and this is what I want to encourage you to do. Look at models. Look at approaches. Ignite the genius inside of you. See what's missing. Challenge it. Change it. Make it work. I'm inviting you as a practitioner to do it so we can put the best practices in the community. Don't look at it as, don't criticize from the sideline. Don't be a Monday morning quarterback. Don't say that don't work. They're not doing nothing. No, this is the positivity rate of it. No, do something about it then. Because the power to do something about it is in this room. Many people critique the work that's being done and have the genius inside of them to make it better and not doing it. My challenge to you is to do something about it. Because you can. You smart enough and have the know-how to make the models better. And I'm asking you, I'm urging you, damn it, I'm begging you, for the sake of black and brown people that's dying at an alarming rate, we need your damn help to make it better. We understand that the warriors that's on the front line are steep, are rich, with lived experience, have the access to individuals that's at the highest risk, but we need the balance from the research community to give us models such as CBI or other models that what? Will allow us to be more effective and change behaviors. We need to help to find culturally competent new iterations of CBI and CBT that will work in our communities. So we need your help. We might not say it out loud, but I'm here to say we need your help. And you are welcome at this table. You're welcome. Because I know, as somebody who has now embarked on research and embraced research, that it cannot happen without the research, coupling with the practice. Research has to inform practice, period. It has to. Research has to improve practice, period. So you have an assignment. I told you I grew up in the Bible, a Baptist church, right? It's a scripture say to much is given. Do anybody know the next part? Much is required. I said in the beginning, we are the top, what? 1% in the world in terms of education. What are you going to do with that 1%? What's the value of knowing how to perform, create, or do something if you're not doing it to impact others? just to show the research on the screen so everybody could say, damn, they smart. I'm serious. I'm serious. We have a chance to really make our world safer. I believe these are the most brilliant people in the world. I just believe that. But what does that say about that if we see things happen that we could change and we don't do it? What legacy are we creating? This is a moment in time when we could stand up and make a real difference, and the resources are there. Let's talk about that too. I know at one point in time, for firearm injury, the money wasn't there. We couldn't do. You could say, Chico, I got a desire to do it, but I got to feed my family. I got to do research that philanthropy, the government, private donors, and other streams of the philanthropic community is investing in. Well, now they're interested in it. And now we got to accept the call to action. And I really want people to think about that, like, damn, what could I do? And I need you to do something too that's outside a lot of y'all comfort zone. I'm gonna tell you something I did that I didn't anticipate doing. It wasn't expected, but I was put in a position and I just had to do it. And I'm gonna call somebody out, and they might get mad at me and curse me out later, but I'm gonna call my sister Shawnee Bugs out. We were in a situation when we were a part of the group that was, they say, consulting with the White House or whatever. And we were asked to put together documents. We didn't ask to be no damn activists and all of that or do all this other stuff. But we knew if we didn't put a literature review with algorithms, let's talk about how we got the damn ARPA dollars for real. Me and her put together a damn literature review, research, algorithms, research, and all the necessary references, and she did most of the work, I gotta say that too. In place to, guess what? Get $2.4 billion out to communities all over the United States. And what, I'm gonna tell you something too. Had not Shawnee, I, Dr. Antonio, and maybe Fatima been in that group, we wouldn't have got a damn dime. Because when we met with the White House, the expectation was like we were gonna do like the other three groups that met with them, that came in there, complained, cried about what was going on, and made a bunch of vain-ass demands, futile demands. Instead, they gave us a week for a meeting. We came in with a damn literature review, 100 pages of papers of documents that substantiated why we were asking for $5 billion. And you know what Ambassador Rice said? I am blown away. She said, I say, no. She said, every question she had, you know, we researched, turn to that page. it's in the slide. Shani was like, it's on page. Research moved the needle to save thousands of lives. And that's what I'm here to tell you. It works. And I know this, you probably be like, and Charles say, most people don't say that because most people want to take credit for something that other people do. And that's just life. That's a human problem. But I know had we not had the documents, even though we weren't the spokespeople in the meeting, had we not had the documentation in the meeting, we would have got nothing. So that's how valuable you are, even in policy. Without you, no damn policy. Without you, nothing's going to move forward. We have to collectively move the needle. We have to collectively agree on definitions of what CVI is and what's the problem is. It's cool to critique one another's work, to synthesize it, but let's do it with the sensitivity or with the mindset to move the work forward as if we're trying to create a movement as opposed to showing somebody up. I think that's so important. It's a way you can, I'm gonna tell y'all what I want y'all to do, because I done hired researchers too. You see I'm on this practitioner side and I'm an ED. When a researcher want to tell you something ain't working and you paying them, they use evocative words that are super mild. Well, you might want to change this a little bit, as opposed to saying, no, this is totally not, I don't know what you're doing. Like we do, but I'm just saying, when we critique articles, we say this person done lost his mind. Why? We can't do that. Pretend as if you're getting paid to do an evaluation and use that language and say, yeah, you might want to try this. You know, I think this might be a better way to do it. Because if we correct one another in love, we grow thereby. But if I tear you down, I might discourage you from continuing in that work. And think about that too for the more seasoned researcher, if they're critiquing somebody who might be a junior researcher or somebody just embarking on this journey. You can detour them from reaching their potential and the greatness that lies within them. Let me go through a few slides, because people looking at me like, this dude gonna be up here all day. And y'all didn't start the clock, so I don't know how we looking. Okay. No, but hey, but I know people gotta catch planes, so I'm not gonna be here long. Let me ask a question, right? When we think about violence as a whole, whether it be most people, firearm violence, of course, most people gravitate towards, some people gravitate towards urban gun violence, which I'm close, community violence intervention, which I'm closely connected to. But others have interest in other types of violence too. How do you situate yourself with the phenomenon? That's something I want you to answer within yourself. And let me clarify it a little bit, because they like, what the hell is he talking about? Is this a question you're seeking to answer to resolve your curiosity? Or is this a question that's eating at your soul that you're determined to solve? It's a difference. If it's just about curiosity, I passively do the research with no attachment or passion to it, so whatever the results is, it's the results. But if it's a part of my purpose or my mission, then not only am I trying to see the results, I'm also looking for ways to mitigate the problem. And as I walked from room to room, from session to session, what resonated with me the most were people that were in search of solving a problem, because that's what real research is about. not just the understanding, but uncovering, unpacking, exploring, displaying the answer to life's problems that society is beckoning us to answer. I often talk to people and they say, they ask me like, you do research, or, what is research? And when I often explain it, I tell them research is a complex methodology that we learn or go through to solve life's difficult problems or difficult challenges. But the commitment has to be there, not just to find the answer, but the remedy. The challenge, I know Charles said we got 4 countries here, but the challenge is in America, we leading the world in gun violence. That's a travesty. Leading the world in gun violence. Leading the world in gun violence. Leading the world in incarceration. When you think about things like that, then that's something that should get our attention and push us toward doing something about it. I see initially people in research, the characteristics or the prototype of a researcher was a white male. But what's interesting, and y'all might want to clap for this, if you look around the room, it's filled with diversity. And when I say diversity, not in the sense of race, but it's a lot of women as well as men in the room. And that shows you the interest of research is growing. And that's real. Just look around, you're gonna say, man, because typically it was white male was the researchers and created the framework for research around America. And many people, and for other researchers, let me say this, many people complain about the system or institutionalization or the frameworks that's been created. And I don't want to get in no trouble. Get off your ass and do something then. Do the work. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm just being real. All I can be is me. People cannot deny the work. People cannot deny the work and what works. Greatness, a lot of people say like, when they hear my story, like, how did you get out of prison, do 16 years and do all of this? Work. It's not magic. It's not magic. It's not work. Put the work in. Every stride we have made in research is because somebody labored to find the answer. So if we want change, labor. That's my answer to you. Labor to make change by doing the work. Not this, the work. Because one thing I know for sure, I don't care who they are, you can't cover up stars. Because stars going to rise to the top. People going to recognize brilliance. It's undeniable. And it has nothing to do with race, color, creed, none of that. They're going to be like, no, they brilliant. It's undeniable. So if it's a problem, do the work. But do it for the right reason. Not just to shine, but to make things better. Because you know what? If your heart in the right place and you doing the work, people gonna recognize it. And people gonna be better off because of you. I'm here, or they asked me to speak, and I know I didn't go through the slides because it tells you stuff that you already know. How many people know how to do a problem analysis? How many people know how to do quantitative research? How many people know how to do qualitative research? If I would have got up here and did that, they would say, okay, he took some classes. But I want you to really be purposeful and do the things that God created you to do. Because you wouldn't have got where you are today had not God been with you. Everything is not on your own ability. So that means not only do you owe God, but you owe humanity. You owe humanity to resolve some of the issues that exist. And I apologize if it's a heavy weight, but unfortunately, you've been selected. Thank you.
What can you say? An amazing way to close. So we will take questions from the audience, and we have some of our assistants will carry the mics around. Question.
Man, I just gotta say, man. Before my question, I really have to thank you. I went to my first session this morning, and I'm gonna speak just authentically. As a black man, I was tired. Kept hearing over and over how we were the victims of gun violence, gun injury, at a level that motivates me to be here, because if I wasn't here, I could be part of what we're talking about. And I got a sense that a lot of people were reporting on it, were doing it because it was satisfying a curiosity, not a passion. So for you to call that out, I have to thank you. And I honor your journey and your presence here. My question is simply, how can I get you to Colorado? Because I have some young people who are working on a CVI, they're working with CU, and we're working to get them to understand first the importance of research, and then how to get into the field of research so they could start to build everything that you spoke to. So thank you.
First of all, thank you so much. The people around me know one of my biggest problems over the last 2 years is I rarely say no. I can't see somebody asking me to support or help in some kind of way, and I just say no. So I'll get you my information, and we'll coordinate and see how I can support the efforts that's going on in Colorado. I did meet with the mayor a couple times of Denver so we could talk about the people already, and the chief of police, so we could talk about how I can support that. But what I want to say to you is they have that, many times you come into a space, and I heard you talk about you seeing things and feeling a little dismayed. But take a strength-based approach, and that reminds you of why you're here. Because what you can be is a breath of fresh air to remind people, because people get weary. People get tired, especially when they're not recognized, when people don't understand the labor that they're putting into what's being done, and they're overlooked. Then it becomes routine. So maybe you're here as a reminder to others how important their work, and to validate all the great things they do. So that's the way I would encourage you.
Thank you so much for being here and speaking from your heart. I think it was an incredible way to end this time together. I want to put out there something that I've been wrestling with, and I'd love any thoughts you could share about it. I think a lot of what I heard you say involved, empowerment and being bold, right? And I'm curious for your thoughts about how, as a white person, this is what I'm wrestling with, is how, as a white person with this privilege of being in that 1% of, that highly educated group or whatever, how can I be bold and empowered while also kind of taking a step aside when I need to, and not kind of contributing to the minoritization of people that I'm trying to support in my community?
Hey, man, that's a wonderful question. I'm going to say something that's no one relinquishes power willingly. Let me give you an analogy. They say I'm famous for these damn analogies. If you think about sports, right? You have some teams that's good all the time. The Yankees, even if they didn't win this year, or Houston, they don't say, well, you know what? Colorado been losing for a long time. We need some equity. We're going to get them some of our good players so they could win too. They city deserve. No. And people that's in power, regardless of race, are not going to render power. So the only way equity exists is when we have allies from people that are in power, that's willing to help us speak truth to power, but also reinforce what we say. So you have an opportunity by being at 1% at the table to voice what the real issues are, because you're going to be heard. Whereas if I said, in many cases, they might not hear me. But if it comes from both of us, then we get their attention. If you think about it, you brought up something powerful. Why did we even get the meeting, Shani, with the President of the United States? Our answer is, Shani, because I know you don't want to be the one said I'm controversial. We didn't get the meeting because of the pandemic, and we had the largest spike in America in the last 25 years, and people were dying. You know why we got the meeting with the President? Because we had 2 mass shootings that impact white communities. And he felt something had to be done. So when individuals who are in that privileged position begin to speak, then it elevates the problem that already exists that others haven't spoke of. So you have a huge responsibility to advocate, to speak the truth, though. I'm not, because it's everybody that speak or say they speak for people not telling the truth. But when you see things in your research, I'm asking you to report out the truth. This is the real issue. This is what's going on. But see, also I encourage you to take that research and say, this is what I believe will work. And this is what I believe should be funded. And that's what you can do to be supportive of individuals that's being harmed, but also to be true to yourself. I'm not asking you to not be true to yourself or not to walk in integrity. That's why you do the research to say, I know this works.
Again, I want to thank you so much for what you shared and your transparency. And so in addition to being a researcher, one of the things that we do at UAB is also provide care and services for the juvenile detention population. And the one thing that's really, really clear that I hope that everyone understands is that you represent the promise and the brilliance of so many young people who are in juvenile detention facilities and even young adults who may be incarcerated. And so as researchers, what I want you to share with us are what are some of the things that allowed you to manifest your brilliance and all that was inside you so that we can create pathways and opportunities for the young people who have had similar experiences in you to actually be where you are and being able to contribute in ways that contribute to the science, but also contribute to your experience. And I want to get you to Alabama. So.
Okay. Let me start by being real transparent. It started with somebody else seeing something in me that I didn't see in myself. The second part was a support system. I needed other people around me who had accomplished what they were telling me I can do, what I can do. And the last thing I needed was a mentor to walk with me through this process. And those were the things that helped me along the way. And lastly, it's crazy. I was working at an organization in Chicago. I had just received, I was on the precipice of receiving my master's. And it was an old white lady. We was real cool. Her name was Dr. Love. And I say, Dr. Love, I'm thinking about going to get my PhD. I say, but I heard at USC, they talking about it takes 7 years. I say, what you think? And this wisdom, she say, Chico, you real smart. She said, but 7 years gonna go by and only two things gonna happen. You either gonna have your PhD or you not. And I was like, you know, it sounds simple, but it was deep. Because I'm gonna tell you, the largest, and I want you to think for a minute. I want that, it's funny, but I want it to resonate with you. Everybody that thinks about getting a PhD, the biggest obstacle they always have is how long it's gonna take. And you know what? Now that I have it, I'm glad it took 7 damn years, because that means it's worth having. I'm glad it was rigorous. I'm glad it was hard, because it forced me to learn a skill that I will have with me for the rest of my life. Because our human instincts or our mentality is to want something easy or fast, instead of the value of going through this rigorous process. And that's why you definitely have to have a mentor. You have to have somebody, because the hardest part about the PhD was life. It wasn't the classes, it wasn't the dissertation, it wasn't all of that. It was balancing that with going through life. And that's what I would tell somebody. Being able to have somebody to walk you through it and not let you stop. Any more questions? Okay, you got enough follow-up, okay. Yeah, I don't care. Hey, we got a few more minutes.
I was curious, as a leader in this work and with all the perspective that you've gained, I'm curious, what are you most excited about in the next, like, 5-10 years? In terms
I'm glad you asked. Here's a chance for a plug. Me and a small group of people had this crazy idea to do something that's gonna make y'all happy. We are creating an advanced degree program within the University of Chicago for people in the CVI field to elevate their leadership and management, so as they're building out these organizations, they will understand not only the value of data collection, but be in a position to give you data to evaluate them. So I'm creating a school within the University of Chicago that will start in August. Also, with that school, there is a policing component that's adjacent to it to improve policing in our community and make them more culturally sensitive, culturally sound, and be able to relate to people in communities that look different for them too. So we didn't want, when we thought about a community safety leadership academy, we didn't just want to address CVI. Also, we wanted to address the way policing look in communities as well across the country. So we have one for policing that's separate, a leadership academy that will bring in sergeants and lieutenants so that the next generation of commanders and the next 10 years of policing will look different as well.
Additional questions? No? Another round of applause for Dr. Chico Tillmon. All right. So this will lead into the next fun and exciting part of this conference. Before we dive into the awards ceremony, I just want to say that it's been a tremendous honor to serve as the co-chair of the awards committee, and none of this work could have been done or completed without the commitment and effort from our committee members on the award committee. So I just want to acknowledge all of them that are sitting in the back, and please stand up. Dr. Ruth Abaya, Dr. Tanya Sharp, and Dr. Chris Saintville. I also want to acknowledge the other members of the group at RAN, Piers Holmes and Susan Catalano, who were instrumental in keeping us very organized. But I have to say, it was a tremendous amount of work. And last but not least, I want to acknowledge Lisa as well as Jessica, because they've done an extraordinary job. Thank you. So just to put this into context, I don't know if you understand the extent of the amount of work it takes to get to 38 travel awards and the 15 awards that we're presenting for the Innovative Scholarship that was presented here today. But we worked tirelessly for hours upon hours, even up to the 24th hour today, we were still working. And so I just think we couldn't have done it without the support of our team, as well as shouts out to the executive committee, and also shouts out to the scientific committee as well, who did a lot of work for us on the front end so we can even arrive at the finals we have for the awards. So thank you. The awards committee members, again, have worked very hard to develop and review applications for the Travel Awards program, and have worked tirelessly to nominate and vote for conference awards that we will be announcing at this moment. I want to say, after just a few house cleaning rules, I will announce the categories and then the awardees. And after I complete announcing all of the awardees, I will invite you to come onto the stage so we can give you your true flowers. Not flowers, we don't have roses for you, but we want to bring you to the stage. All right, so in addition to the 38 travel awards, the awards committee also, we had conference-based awards based on your incredible science and research that was presented at this year's conference. There are 5 categories of awards at this award for this conference, and multiple awardees in each category. And there has been a great deal of science presented over the past 2 days, and I've attended and even moderated many of the sessions. And I can tell you it was really impressive, the research that I observed and we observed as a committee, and it was a difficult job to come to the final decisions for these awards, because if we could give everyone an award, we possibly would. But these are the winners of this year's award, and you will receive later on an engraved plaque as well. So for the first award, our first award is the Innovation Award. And this category recognizes excellence in challenging the traditional paradigms and shifting current research practices by utilizing theoretical concepts, approaches, and instrumentation or interventions. And this year, the recipients of the Innovation Award are Noor Abdul Razak from the University of Chicago, Harris School of Public Policy, for her presentation, Unpacking the Impacts of Youth Behavioral Health Intervention, Experimental Evidence from Chicago. And Nora's colleague, Kimberly Smith, also from the University of Chicago, will be accepting the award on her behalf. So give a round of applause for Nora. Our second recipient of the Innovation Award is Cynthia Ewell Foster from the University of Michigan for her presentation, Store Safely, a culturally tailored universal prevention strategy for rural families. Congratulations to Noor and to Cynthia. Next, we have the Equity and Justice Award, and this category recognizes excellence in centering and supporting marginalized and underserved communities most affected by firearm injury through research. The recipients of this year's Equity and Justice Awards are Amelia Mueller-Williams from the University of California for her presentation, Long-Term Trends of Firearm Suicide among American Indian and Alaska Native young adult men, 1999 to 2020. The second recipient of this award is Jordan Costa from the Gifford Center for Violence Prevention for her presentation, Community Violence Intervention Strategies, the State of Street Outreach. Congratulations to Amelia and to Jordan. Next, we have the Translational Science Award. This category recognizes excellence in applying scientific investigative approaches to study how the outputs of research can be effectively translated into practice and policy for preventing firearm injury. And the recipients of the Translational Science Award this year are Michael Aldrich, Boston University, for his presentation, The Implications of the Bruin Decision on Racial Disparities in Gun Violence. It's an amazing presentation, I was there. And also Max Kapustin from Cornell University and the University of Chicago for his presentation, Promising Approaches to Ending Community Violence. Congratulations to Michael as well as to Max. Next is the Multidisciplinary Science Award. And this category recognizes excellence in genuinely, and I emphasize genuinely, harnessing the power of different but interrelated disciplines and partners to create positive change in the field of firearm injury research. The recipients for this year's awards in multidisciplinary science are Christina Jacovides from the University of Pennsylvania for a presentation, Increased Tree Canopy Coverage is Associated with Lowering Shooting Incidents in Philadelphia. And the second award is to Mudia Uzi from Johns Hopkins University for his presentation, Assessing the Intersection of Historic and Contemporary Structural Racism on Firearm Violence in Baltimore City. Thank you and congratulations to Christina and Medea. And then finally, we have the Impact Science Award. And this category recognizes excellence in exerting a powerful, sustained, and broad influence in the field of firearm injury research. And the recipients of this award are Monica Bott from the University of Chicago for her presentation, Predicting and Preventing Gun Violence, an Experimental Evaluation of READI Chicago. And the second award goes to Carla Tillmon from Johns Hopkins University for her presentation, Augmented Synthetic Control Methods Demonstrate Overall Effectiveness of a Cure Violence Intervention in Baltimore City. Congratulations to Monica and to Carla. And we also had poster awards in 5 categories for those awardees. I will start with multidisciplinary. The multidisciplinary poster award for this year goes to Fatima El-Gamal from the State of University of New Jersey, titled Violence Still Unrelenting, an analysis of 2 decades and 12,088 gunshot wounds at a level 1 trauma center. Congratulations. Our translational poster award goes to Giselle Barbaras from the Philadelphia Department of Public Health, and the title of her poster was Impact of State-Level Preemption of Local Firearm Ordinances on Firearm Mortality Rates in 5 Pennsylvania counties. Congratulations, Giselle. And for innovation, Angelica D'Souza from Northwestern University, and the title of her research is Research Practitioner Partnerships to Develop Data-Informed Approaches to CVIs. And for our equity, and give her a round of applause. Thank you. And then for our last 2 awards, Equity and Justice, goes to Nasa Baker. Oh, you're shocked, right? From the New Jersey Gun Violence Research Center, and the title of her poster is It Doesn't Add Up, Performance of Adverse Childhood Experiences Questionnaire with Black Male Firearm Violence Survivors in a Hospital-Based Violence Intervention Program. Congratulations, Nasa. And then finally, the Impact Poster Award goes to Alexandra Filendra from the University of Illinois Chicago and Rutgers University, and her poster was titled The Effect of Second Amendment Sanctuary Ordinances on Firearm Homicide and Suicide Rates. Congratulations. There were a number of amazing presentations, and as I said, unfortunately, we couldn't award everyone, but I think it's a testament to the level of scholarship and research at this conference. I have to say I was totally impressed, and I think the awards committee would also support this, that we were impressed, and it was very difficult to arrive at the 15 awardees for this year's conference, and we look forward to next year's conference. We don't look forward to reading all the abstracts and coming down to be honest with you, but I mean, I think the precedent has been set. The bar is pretty high, and much congratulations and respect to all of the presenters, and particularly congratulations to all the awardees. Can you all come up to the stage for those that I've mentioned? It's strange when you've read these abstracts 1,000,000 times and then you finally see the faces attached to the abstracts and to the presentations. Is that it? Okay. One more. So we believe in giving people their flowers while they're here and acknowledging them for all the hard work they do. So I just want to acknowledge, and I think the room should acknowledge collectively, these are our awardees for the 2022 conference. And thank you for all your amazing work, and congratulations. All right. I think we're almost closing in, so I will turn it back over to Charlie, and he will close us out. Also, oh, you'll mention it, Charlie. So for all the awardees, and Charlie may reiterate this, at the end, when he completes his remarks and when we close, if the awardees could please stay in the room because we will be taking pictures, and please do not leave. So, thank you.